and do a roll call to start things off. Councillor Foster.
Present.
Councillor McElwain.
Present.
Councillor Dunsmore.
Here.
Councillor McCrae.
Here.
And I do have regrets from Councillor Van Leeuwen and Councillor Kittredge. So we are all here. Before we get into the agenda, I had a couple announcements today. Firstly, I wanted to congratulate our own Elora Rocks for becoming the WOSHL Sleeman Cup champions. So this is their first year in the league. So congratulations to all the coaches, the players, and an organization. What an amazing year you guys had. So congratulations, you made Center Whiteton proud. So I know that the place was hopping. They had their second last game at the Sportsplex, and the place was hopping. They filled the stands out, and I know that the fans came out in droves this past year, and they had a lot of good things to see. So congratulations to the Elora Rocks. Almost as exciting as this, we have our 5th Key Projects open house happening at the CW Sportsplex, 6 to 8 this Thursday, April the 28th. We'll have a good number of booths set up to showcase the good things that we're doing with tax dollars. So the following booths will be set up: 2022 municipal elections. A second one is municipal bylaw compliance, the CW Fire Rescue Services, trees and public property bylaw, Elora Community Center renovation, the new Center Whiteton Business Park, the Operations Center, East Mill reconstruction, Wellington County Emergency Preparedness, and the Parks and Trails updates. So that's good. They'll be set up. I'll also be hosting my 24th Mayor's Town Hall at this night. So I'll be providing a 20 to 25 minute presentation starting at 7 o'clock. Really looking forward to spending some interactive, in-person, face-to-face times with folks again. So we're looking forward to a good turnout. Wanted to thank, in advance, I wanted to thank all the township staff for preparing for this evening. Thanks, Kender, for coordinating everything. And thanks to everybody for taking the time to set up the booth, get the information ready, and interacting with folks and spending that evening with the citizens. Looking forward to a really good night. And I know it takes a lot of staff time to get ready for this. So those are my 2 quick announcements. And we'll move on to item 2 on the agenda. There's no addendums or corrections to the agenda. Nothing was sent after the fact. Matters arising from closed session, items 13 and 14 will be presented as part of the committee of the whole report. So that's in section 6.1. So that's what we'll talk about that. Presentations and announcements. I'll give a fairly brief county council report, and then Councillor McCrae.
Yes, I'd just like to disclose that I have a conflict of pecuniary interest.
Oh, did I skip that little part of the agenda? Sorry about that.
Yes.
Go ahead, Councillor McCrae, and then I'll ask other people too.
So I have a pecuniary interest related to agenda item number 4, matters arising from closed session, and item number 6, report from the committee of the whole, 19th April 2022. My reason is close proximity to the subject lands. May I suggest, as part of the process for agenda item 6.1, that item number 14 in the committee of the whole report be presented separately to allow me not to participate in its vote?
Yes, we will do that for sure, Councillor McCrae. We'll pull out item 14 out of that and vote on that separately. Okay, thanks for that. Any other disclosure of pecuniary interest? Okay. So a little bit of a county update. So I'll talk about a couple things that are related to Center Wellington, and it's from our March county meeting, because we haven't met this month yet. We meet on Thursday, so this is from March. The Penfold Bridge, located on Whiteton Road 16, approximately 6 kilometers north of Whiteton Road 19 in Center Wellington, will be reconstructed this fall. The cost of the project is just under $730,000. County council also approved off-road vehicles, allowing them on all county roads. A bylaw to this effect has been created. The decision follows conversations with the OPP, who stated that their main concern was having as much consistency across the county as possible, and allowing off-road vehicles on county roads is the most consistent with the member municipalities. 4 municipalities have no restrictions. including Center Wellington, and only Guelph, Moss, and Minto and Erin have some restrictions. So the OPP are most pleased with this. So that's the direction that County Council made in March. Third thing, the county approved a bylaw moving forward was designating 9 community safety zones across the county. 2 of those are in Center Wellington. The first one, Wellington Road 18, Bellside Avenue East from Highway 6 to McTavish Street, is going to be a community safety zone. And then the second one is Wellington Road 7 from McNabb Street to Spears Road. And that'll be a community safety zone. So appreciate the implementation of these community safety zones is expected to happen late spring this year, with the signage being put up. They are important because they allow for increased fines in those areas. And they're also a first step to a future decision of potentially putting in place automated speed enforcement. You can't do that until it's first a community safety zone. So that first step has been taken by the county. So those are the things I wanted to bring to council's attention today. Updates from committees. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Mayor. Center Wellington Hydro, we met last week, and the board has received and approved the financial statements for 2021, and we've received a clean audit opinion on the financial position of our utilities. So that is very good news, and I continue to be impressed with how well run and operated our Center Wellington Hydro is, and they'll be hoping to come to this council in June with their annual report. And I think that's it for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Foster. Councillor McElwain.
Thank you. The BIA canceled this month, and the only agenda item at Heritage is going to be presented a little later today, so I won't go into that. I did attend EDCO over the last month, virtually again, and it had some excellent presentations this year. And I also then attended a 3 half-day sessions put on by Ontario Age Friendly Community Outreach Program, and some great examples of age-friendly community work being done across the country. And the one that was very impressive was the fact that the whole country of Ireland is working toward age-friendly legislation for the country, not just for communities. So it was well done and a great presentation. And then finally, this past week, I attended a session put on by the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario on building inclusive tourism, and also a really good presentation on how diversity and tourism, or how tourism can use diversity as a tool, I guess, if you like. And that was it for me.
Thanks, Councillor McElwain. Councillor Dunsmore.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor Linton. I had the privilege of attending the Good Roads Conference this past week, or a week ago, 2 weeks ago, with with Colin Baker and Adam Gilmore, to meet with the Minister of Transportation. And I expressed your regrets, Mayor Linton, that you couldn't be there. And we were simply advocating for our Connecting Links project that they have before them. And that was a very good meeting. Also, that was a great conference, and I know a lot more about gravel roads now than I think I ever did before. So it's getting to meet the people in the industry and hearing the conversations from other councillors around the province was very helpful. As far as economic development goes, we had a meeting this morning of the Agricultural Zoning Committee, and that was a good meeting. And again, we're working through that, and hopefully we have something for the Economic Development Committee to look at soon. The CSAC Committee, you've heard about that report in the past, and it's again on the agenda today, but the ECC. So nothing else to report from there, and the BIA will meet next week. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Councillor Dunsmore. Councillor McCrae.
Thank you, Mayor Linton, through you. GRCA, the April 22nd meeting consisted of the general meeting, a Grand River Source Protection Authority meeting, and a closed meeting. The Grand River Source Protection meeting received the Lake Erie Region Source Protection Authority 2021 Annual Progress Report in supplemental form, and then directed its submission and Source Protection Committee comments to the Director of Conservation and Source Protection, Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks. Highlights of the board's general meeting included the GRCA's general insurance renewal for this year represents a $170,782 or 38% increase in its premiums. Some changes to the GRCA's hunting program. For Center Wellington, it involves no waterfowl hunting on Bellwood Lake. Hunting on other Bellwood hunting properties is restricted to bow or bow and shotgun. No hunting on Wilson's Flats, east side of the 8th line. Recreational use on Wilson's Flats, the west side of the 8th line, is limited to June 1st through August 31st, after which the area is hunting only. The pheasant release program at Lake Conestoga is under review. The board requested staff review and advise on the implications of having a third party run the program. Healthy growth. The meeting included an age-friendly community workshop presented by 2 Occupational Therapy Association of Ontario members. Committee members learned about active aging and age-friendly communities. An age-friendly community helps seniors age actively through its design of policies, services, and structures related to the physical and social environment. Age-friendly communities help seniors live safely, enjoy good health, and stay involved. We learned the importance of responding to aging-related needs and preferences, and how our community could obtain an age-friendly community designation. Currently, there are 73 age-friendly communities in Ontario. The presentation was followed by subcommittee updates on policy and zoning and financial incentives. That's it.
Thanks, councillors. I just wanted to add to both Councillor McCray and Councillor McElwain's discussion on age-friendly communities. So that was a really good presentation that we heard at Healthy Growth. And I've asked our county's accessibility committee to hear the presentation because that's what their mandate is from a county-wide perspective. So the age-friendly presentation that we heard at Healthy Growth will be going forward with the county's accessibility committee in the next month. So I think that's good, and hopefully we can get some good action as a result of that. So that's a positive, I think. Councillor McElwain?
Thanks, Mayor. The Accessibility Committee has been around for a long time, and that has never really been their, I mean, their mandate is focused, or has been focused almost entirely on accessibility. And of course, age-friendly community is a lot more than that. So I'm curious, has their terms of reference changed, or is that necessarily the best place for them? I guess number one. And number two is, I was wondering if perhaps the Amy and her friend also couldn't present to council, because I think their presentation would be very meaningful to all of council.
Yeah, based on what they presented to Healthy Growth, I sit on the accessibility committee for the county as well, and there's significant. I know that the focus is a little different, and their focus, the friendly community, goes well beyond accessibility. But I do know that there's significant overlap in what the committee, the accessibility committee, is looking at right now. And so, as a result of that meeting, and I'll be at that meeting as well, if there's a requirement, or there's a suggestion from the accessibility committee that they should go to the member municipalities to also present, I think that will come out of that meeting for sure. And that's something good that I can bring to the county's accessibility committee if I think their mandate is a little too narrow. But I do think it's a good first place to start, because there needs to be a little bit there is a lot of overlap there, and I think they're looking for a little bit more focused action from the county's accessibility committee, and this might be something that is kind of the next phase that they can move into towards more age-friendly communities. So if there's an opportunity to come back to this council and the other member municipalities, then we'll make sure that we do that for sure. Okay, moving on to 6.1, the Committee of the Whole. I'm going to split that out. So I have a recommendation of the Council of the Township of Center Wellington approve items 1 through 13 from the report from the Committee of the Whole dated April 19th, 2022 as circulated. Can I have a mover for that, please? Councillor McCray, seconded by Councillor Dunsmore. All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. The second recommendation is that the Council of the Township of Center Wellington approve item 14 from the report from the Committee of the Whole dated April 19th, 2022 as circulated. Mover for that, Councillor Dunsmore, seconded by Councillor McElwain. All in favor of that item? And that is carried. No delegations today. First report that we have is a zoning amendment on 8537 Whiteton Road 19 in Bellwood, and I'll turn things over to our senior planner, Mariana. Welcome, Mariana.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. Through you to members of council. The report before you concerns a rezoning application for the property at 8537 Wellington Road 19 in Bellwood, formerly in the township of West Garifraxa. It's adjacent to the Highland Pines campground, which is also owned by the applicant. The subject 21.7 acre or 8.8 hectare property currently supports the private residence. It's designated prime agricultural and greenlands in the county official plan. The rezoning application seeks to rezone the lands from M3 extractive industrial and EP environmental protection back to agricultural land, and that is to reflect that the former gravel pit that was once on the property has since been removed and the license surrendered, and functions as a residential property currently. The exception that's being placed on the property would also allow a second dwelling to be built for a family member. The amendment is in keeping with provincial and county policies for rural agricultural lands and meets the criteria for second dwellings. That is, the dwelling will be subordinate to the main dwelling, is within the main building cluster, will use the same road access, driveway, and can be adequately serviced and built outside of any hazard lands. A public meeting was held on March 30th. As required, no oral or written submissions were received from the public. The county and the GRCA have both reviewed the application and provided comments with no objections. As such, staff recommends that the application be approved and that the corresponding bylaw that's attached to the report be enacted by council. And I'd be able to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mariana. Any questions from council on this one? Okay, I will read the recommendation that the Council of the Township of Center Wellington approves rezoning application RZ01/22 and that the appropriate zoning bylaw amendment be given 3 readings. Mover for that, please. Councillor McElwain, seconded by Councillor Dunsmore. All in favor? And that is approved. Moving on to 8.2, a zoning amendment for 7122 Wellington Road 16 in former West Garifraxa. Turn it back over to Mariana.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. Through you. This zoning amendment application, RZ0322, is for 7122 Wellington Road 16, formerly in West Garifraxa Township. And it's an approximately 39 hectare property located on the west side of Wellington Road 16, just south of Side Road 25. In the rural agricultural area, the property is designated prime agricultural. The zoning amendment is a condition of approval of a land division application, which relates to the severance of the existing residence and accessory buildings and lands that are surplus to a farm operation. The amendment will change the zoning on the retained farm parcel to an agricultural exception to prohibit new residential development and recognize an agricultural building with a reduced side yard setback of 11 meters instead of the required 18 meters. The public meeting was held on March 30th for the application. No oral or written submissions were received from the public. The County of Wellington has provided comments with no objections. So as such, staff recommends approval of the application and that the corresponding bylaw be given 3 readings.
Thanks, Mariana. Any questions, comments from council? Okay, I read the recommendation that the Council of the Township of Center Wellington approves zoning application RZ03/22 and that the appropriate zoning bylaw amendment be given 3 readings. Have a mover for that, please. Councillor McElwain, seconded by Councillor McCray. All in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to zoning amendment for 7075 Wellington Road 16 in former West Garifraxa. Over to you, Mariana.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. Through you. Similar to the previous application, this application is for a zoning amendment related to a surplus farm severance at 7075 Wellington Road 16 in West Garifraxa. The 31-hectare property is designated prime agricultural and core greenlands. And the zoning amendment is, again, a condition of approval of a land division application, which relates to a severance. In order to meet the requirements of the provincial policy statement, it's necessary to prohibit residential uses on the retained parcel through the zoning amendment, and also a zoning exception on the severed parcel will recognize a reduced lot frontage. A public meeting was held on March 30th, and no oral or written submissions were received. As well, the county and the Grand River Conservation Authority provided comments with no objections to the application, so staff is recommending approval and enactment of the bylaw. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thanks, Marianne. Any questions, comments from council? Councillor McElwain?
Thanks, Mary. Just a quick question, Mariana. The dotted line that goes through the environmental protection area and continues up to the north of there and south of there, what is that exactly?
Mariana?
I'll have to pull up the report. Sorry, through you. When you say dotted line, I'm just trying to see what you're referring to.
I think it's a hydro easement, Mariana.
Yes, sorry, I was just noticing that now. Yes, it looks like. No, sorry, that is an EP. So that is the dotted line is a water course.
Okay, yes. Thank you.
Okay, I'll read the recommendation that the Council of the Township of Center Wellington approves rezoning application RZ04/22 and that the appropriate zoning bylaw amendment be given 3 readings. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Dunsmore, second by Councillor McCray. All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Moving on to the partial demolition of a listed property, a rear addition on 209 Smith Street in Laura. Back over to you, Mariana.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. Through you. This report before you is for partial demolition of the listed property at 209 Smith Street in Elora. The demolition request is for a small rear addition. It's a wooden structure that's in very poor shape. The owner would like to demolish it so that they can construct a similar sized addition, slightly larger at the back of the property in a similar fashion. It'll be another wood addition, and it would not impact the brick dwelling. It went to the Heritage Committee for consideration at its meeting on April 12th, and there were no objections to the demolition. So as such, staff recommends that council allow the demolition to proceed and that the property remains on the Municipal Heritage Register. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Marianne. Any questions, comments from council? Okay, I read the recommendation that the Council of the Township of Center Wellington approves the partial demolition request for the rear one-story wood frame addition to the listed property known as 209 Smith Street, Elora in the Township of Center Wellington, and that the property remains on the Municipal Heritage Registry as a non-designated listed property. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor McElwain, second by Councillor Dunsmore. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to 8.5, development charge, late payment agreement. And I will turn this over to Brett Are you going to speak to this, Brett?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. Through you, it's my pleasure to bring forward this development charge late payment agreement. I think it's a good news story. It relates to a relatively new business in Elora known as Sterling Marathon Inc. Council may recall that we had a council approval of a late payment agreement when they built their building initially back in 2020. They built a 30,000 square foot building. We deferred at that time their development charges for a period of 3 years. And now, as a result of continued success, they're proposing to expand the building in order to accommodate manufacturing at their site at 33 Park Road in Elora. So the owner, who's here on the meeting today to answer any questions, Doug Greenway, he requested a further deferral of development charges on the addition. So we discussed amongst the CIO and myself and the economic development manager how we could accommodate this request. And we suggested that we roll in the amount that's outstanding, and then starting on the anniversary date of that agreement, we would add in the new development charges and set up a payment plan. So basically the DCs get paid in 5 installments that add up to come out to approximately $132,000 per year. We put that to Mr. Greenway and he was agreeable to that. So that's the nature of the agreement that we put forward. So the first payment would be in August of 2023, and then there'd be annual payments for the remaining 4 years after that until the full balance is paid. So again, happy to answer any questions. This is a good news story for economic development. And as I said, the president of Sterling Marathon, Doug Greenway, is here to answer any questions as well if need be.
Thanks very much, Brad, and welcome, Doug, to our council meeting. Appreciate you being here. If there's any questions that council has. Members of council, any questions, comments? Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Mayor. Some of us know we've had a long history of making appliances in Fergus and also in Guelph, the Beatty Brothers, GSW, WC Wood. So I'm happy to hear that we're going back to the making of appliances in our community, Doug. So I'm very excited about this. I've got 2 questions, Doug. The first is, do you expect to hire any new employees as a result of manufacturing, in this facility?
Doug?
Thank you, Council, and thank you, Councillor Foster. Yes, actually, we're excited to be returning some manufacturing to Canada. We'll be, quite honestly, the first manufacturer back in Canada since WC Wood exited in 2009. We were fortunate enough also to get some support from the Ministry of Economic Development in order to make this investment. And our plan is to hire approximately 50 people over the next few years. That's on a single shift. With the opportunity for exports as well, we believe actually we were hopeful that it'll be up for that. We're pretty conservative in all of our estimates. So, but we're really excited about this, Councillor, and we appreciate the opportunity the township has given us, and also Brett Salmon in working through with us, and also the support from Mayor Linton. So thank you very much on that. And yeah, we're excited. And we're going to be having, just as a side note, our open house is June 23rd of our existing facility. We'll also be breaking ground later this month and then the beginning of May on the new facility. And we're going to be welcoming everyone from the community as well to come and try to better understand what we're trying to do. So it's going to be pretty fun. We're excited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Follow on, Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Mayor. My second question, Doug, is I guess I'm wondering, are you in the private label business or you have your own line? And more particularly, Doug, I'd like to know when I can purchase a new refrigerator that's made in Elora. How soon will they roll off the line so I can get one?
Again, good questions. Thank you. Actually, I'll answer the first question, or the last question first, is that we are planning production for first quarter of 2023 It's a project that when we purchased initially the land up here, we had a plan in order to build within the community a manufacturing facility. So been working on the engineering for the last 2 years. We're hoping the building will be fully enclosed by the end of October, and equipment will be moving in and getting commissioned in December and January. And yeah, so the first product will hopefully be coming off sometime at the end of Q1 2023.
Great.
As far as some of the other products, we market under the Marathon brand, the Epic brand, and then the Sterling brand, which is going to be kind of our flagship brand, is only destined for made in Canada product. So our product currently, as many of the councillors and mayor know, is imported from overseas. We're just looking to try to reshore some of the core products. And it is getting the factory fitted for refrigeration and a flexible, advanced manufacturing environment, which will allow us to produce several different models as we progress. And yeah, so we're just excited. Our dealers, we have about 400 dealers across Canada. We sell to independent dealers, everyone from Spears Electric in town to McCullough Shoe in Guelph to Leon's, Costco, Home Depot as well. So yeah, and we're hoping as well, sorry not to be so long-winded, also to use this opportunity for export as well. We have several private label customers, you had mentioned private label, that are in the US and also in Europe. And we've been working closely with them as well on designing this product to their specifications as well.
Thanks, Doug. Any other questions, comments from council? Councillor Dunsmore?
Yeah, Councillor Foster asked the main portion of my question was, Doug, about how many jobs. But I just want to give a shout out to you and the Economic Development Committee, because when you came here as a warehouse, you gave us a concept that you might get into manufacturing later, and to have the wherewithal to allow a warehouse to come in and show them the environment and the community that you've come to. This is the spinoff that we wanted, that now you're here, you brought your manufacturing with you and you're growing your business. So welcome to town and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Councillor Dunsmore. I appreciate it as well. And one final note on that, the quality of the jobs that we are going to be expanding here in the lower they're going to be good jobs. Manufacturing has changed, and in order to stay at the cutting edge, you have to have some advanced equipment, and we're looking for advanced operators, not metal bending operators, but ones that can manufacture the highest degree of quality for us to make our product. Quite honestly, we're targeting it to be the best in the world. So that's what I know. Our sites are high, but we've got some good people, and again, we're looking to add some good people that want a good paying job as well.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks, councillors. I'll read the recommendation that the Council of the Township of Center Wellington authorize the Managing Director of Corporate Services to execute a development charge late payment agreement between the corporation and Sterling Marathon Inc. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Dunsmore, second by Councillor Foster. All in favor? And that is carried. I have to say, Doug, one of the most exciting things that we did during COVID was the initial groundbreaking that we did. I got to meet you and your family, and so great to have such a high-end, classy family running this operation. And right in the middle of COVID, we had a shovel ceremony, and that was a great time because it was a lot of bad news at that time, and that was definitely some good news for Center Wellington in the middle of COVID. So good luck with everything, Doug. And if there's anything that the township or the county can do to help out, just let us know.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. Again, I just want to, one last moment, just want to thank everyone for their support. Township has been so welcoming in getting us started here. We're excited. So just thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks for bringing that report to us, Brett. Moving on to the next report, RFT 18-22 and the replacement of structure 24WG. And I'll turn it over to Adam. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Mayor Linton, and through you. This report is more of an informational report detailing staff recommendation to cancel RFT 18-22 relating to structure 24WG without award. This tender was issued in accordance with the township's purchasing and procurement bylaw. And while there were 26 registered plan takers, there was only one tender submission, which was significantly exceeded budget. Given the significance of which this budget would be over budget, or this project would be over budget, staff are recommending that this tender be canceled without award, and staff will consider options on how to best proceed with this project at a future date. Should there be any technical questions relating to this project, I would kindly defer to the township's manager of engineering for further comment. Thank you.
Definitely disappointing for sure. We like to get these projects done, but appreciate staff's perspective on this. Questions from council? Councillor McCray.
Thank you, Mayor Linton, through you. So I take it this project's going on hold. Does that mean that we can reallocate the monies to the next bridge waiting in line to be replaced? For example, Noah Road, we've got a couple of major culverts there that need replacing. Can we proceed to look at doing those sooner than later?
Adam, or which Adam is going to take this? Adam Gilmore, you want to take this? Okay.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Linton. Thank you, Councillor McCray, for the question through you, Mayor Linton. So we work on kind of a 3-year cycle with these bridge replacements, where typically year 1, we do the municipal class EA study. Year 2, we do the detailed design. Year 3, we do the construction. So with that in mind, we don't have a lot of flexibility in being able to pivot to some of these other projects, just given that we might not have satisfied the municipal class EA requirements or even the detailed design yet. So we are reevaluating what this means in the context of our overall 10-year bridge plan. And we are trying to find some flexibility in that plan to reallocate funds if possible. But I don't think it's likely we'd be able to do another major bridge reconstruction project instead of that project this year.
Councillor Dunsmore.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're not doing, we're putting the project on hold. We're not canceling the project. We're looking for better quotes coming down the future, maybe more competitive bids, but this project is still going forward. Am I correct?
Adam?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Dunsmore, for the question through you, Mayor Linton. That is correct. We're not canceling the project. We're just looking at options for tendering the project at a later date.
Any other questions, comments from council? Okay, I'll read the recommendation. That the Council of the Township of Center Wellington receive report COR 2022-07 for information. Mover for that, please. Councillor Dunsmore, second by Councillor McElwain. All in favor? And that is carried. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Adam. Moving on to 8.7, Sidewalk Patio Cafe and Display Fees and Charges Amendment. And I will turn it over to Adam McNabb on this one.
Thank you, Mayor Linton, and again through you. This report is more of a housekeeping report in nature. It pertains strictly to the recommendation as amended coming from report IS 2022-14 regarding the Sidewalk Patio Cafe and Display bylaw. This report seeks council endorsement to amend the fees and charges bylaw, specifically Schedule G, to enact the as amended recommendation changes to the fees, the existing fees and charges bylaw. And happy to field any questions the council may have relative to the contents of the report.
Thanks, Adam. Any questions, comments from council on this one? Okay, I will read the recommendation that the Council of the Township of Center Wellington endorse an amendment to bylaw 2021-62, the Township's fees and charges bylaw pursuant to recommendation coming from the report IS 2022-14 as amended regarding Sidewalk Patio Cafe and Display bylaw. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Dunsmore, second by Councillor McCray. Any comments, questions about this? Councillor Foster?
I just want to speak in favor of this, Mayor. I feel a great way to support our restaurant sector in the COVID recovery, as I've already mentioned. It's a small thing we can do to support our restaurant industry.
Okay, all in favor? And that carries. Thanks very much, Adam. 8.8, request for proposal, Milligan Park Playground Equipment and Park Updates. And we have our Sandy Wiles, our purchasing and risk supervisor, wrote this report, and I will turn it over to Adam to speak to.
Thanks once again, Mayor Linton, and again through you. This report provides recommendations and seeks council approval for award of RFP number 29-22 for playground equipment and park upgrades in Milligan Park. Recommendation is that council authorize the award of RFP 29-22 to Open Space Solutions, Inc. The proposal was issued in accordance with the township's purchasing and procurement bylaw. There were 13 plan takers and 2 responses received. Responses were evaluated and scored by the selection committee, and the results of the evaluation are reflected in the staff recommendations being presented today. Recommended award presents award to the highest scored proponent and falls within budget approved for this project. Should council have any further questions of a technical nature, I would respectfully defer to the Managing Director of Community Services for further comment. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Adam. Any questions, comments from council on this one? Councillor McCray?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Pat. What is the, I guess, the playground surface going to be? Is it going to be sort of a sand or wood chips or sort of a rubber matting?
Pat?
Yes, thanks for the question. The planned surfacing is engineered wood fiber. So it's the wood fiber chips that we have in many of our parks.
Councillor Dunsmore?
I just want to say on behalf of the residents of Milligan, the time has finally come. They've waited a long time for this. They've been requesting this for quite some time, and I'm just happy to see it finally come, and can't wait for construction to start.
And under budget by $16. Anything else from council? Okay, I'll read the recommendation that the Council of the Township of Center Whiteton award request for proposal 29-22 Milligan Park playground equipment and park upgrades to Open Space Solutions, Inc. in the amount of $121,996.83, excluding HST. Mover for that, please. Councillor Dunsmore, second by Councillor McCray. All in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to request for proposal 17/22. And again, our purchasing and risk supervisor, Sandy, wrote this report, and I'll turn it over for Adam to present it.
Through you, your worship, this report provides recommendations and seeks council approval for award of RFP 17-22 for engineering services. The purpose of this RFP was to retain the services of a qualified engineering consulting team to complete the detailed design, tender, and construction contract administration for the completion of the replacement of Bridge 16WG. Recommendation is that council authorize the award of the request for proposal 17-22 to RJ Burnside and Associates Limited. The proposal was issued in accordance with the township's purchasing and procurement bylaw. There were 12 plan takers and 4 responses received. The recommended proponent was selected using a 2-stage evaluation process where the proponents scoring sufficiently on technical merit from a selection committee were then given consideration on fee proposal. The results of the analysis and selection committee review are reflected in the staff recommendations being presented here today. Should council have any further questions of a technical nature, I would respectfully defer to the township's manager of engineering for further comment. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Questions, comments from council? Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Mayor. My question is for Adam. Adam, you're now the 4th professional engineer we have on staff. There was a time not long ago where we had no PNGs on staff. And so I can't help but wonder, Adam, why couldn't we, can you help us understand why this work can't be done in-house? We now have 4 PNG and 2 CETs on our own staff. Why do we still need consulting engineering?
Adam?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Foster, and through you, Mayor Linton. So a project of this nature, a bridge, a detailed design for a bridge reconstruction, it does require quite a diverse team of expertise. So, there are structural engineers, there are ecologists, There are road designers and transportation engineers. So it is quite a significant undertaking to design a bridge like this, and it does require a diverse team of multiple engineers and others with other backgrounds also to accomplish. So you're correct. We have 4 professional engineers, and we work closely with our consultants in project managing these projects. And as township staff, we do add a lot of value to those projects, working alongside the consultants. But that is quite a significant undertaking that would require more than 4 engineers to undertake.
Thanks, Adam. Follow on, Councillor Foster.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Adam, I just wondered, we have 4 PNs on staff. Have any of our professional engineers ever stamped any of our drawings? That is to say, approve them as a PN?
Adam?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor Foster. So in my time here at the township, I started in January of 2021. I'm not aware of any drawings being stamped by our engineers, and that's unfortunately I can't comment on anything prior to that time.
Any other comments, questions from council? Okay, I'll read the recommendation of the Council of the Township of Center Wellington. Award request for proposal number 17-22. Engineering Services Bridge 16WG to R.J. Burnside and Associates Limited at a total upset limit of $179,831.70, including materials testing allowance and excluding HST. Mover for that, Councillor McCray, seconded by Councillor Dunsmore. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Thanks, Adam. Moving on to 810, RFT 1122 for new well exploration drilling program. And we have a report that was completed by Sandy Wiles, and Adam McNabb will speak to that. Over to you, Adam.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. And again, through you, this report provides recommendations and seeks council approval for award of RFP number 11-22 for the new well exploration drilling program. The purpose of this RFP was to obtain contractor services for the installation of monitoring wellness and pilot test wells to determine the feasibility of developing new groundwater supply sources in 4 target areas. Recommendation is that council authorize the award of the RFP 11-22 to Aardvark Drilling Inc. The proposal was issued in accordance with the township's purchasing and procurement bylaw. There were 7 plan takers and 1 response received. The recommended proponent submission was over budget, and original scope has been reduced in consultation with the township's consulting engineer for this project. The request for tender document included a provision allowing the township to modify the scope of work so as not to exceed the available budget and award contract on a reduced basis. In consultation with the consulting engineer, township staff have confirmed that the proposed purpose and objectives of the new well exploration program will be fulfilled despite the revised scope of work. And should council have any further questions of a technical nature, I would again defer to the township's manager of engineering for further comment. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Questions, comments from council? Councillor McElwain?
Sorry about that. Revised scope of work, Adam, is, I guess not you answering the question probably, seems to only be doing 2 less test drill holes, but the price has gone down by 30% of the total. So it just seems to me like a significant drop in price for a fairly insignificant change in the total job. So I'm curious if there's something there I'm missing.
Adam Gilmore?
Yes, thanks, Councillor McElwain, for the question there, and through you, Mayor Linton. So, we were originally proposing 2 wells, a pilot well and a test well at each of the 4 locations. So that's 8 in total. So we've removed two of the what we're referring to as the test wells. So the pilot well is the one that happens first, and then the test well happens after that. And they're not of the same magnitude. The pilot well is a smaller scope than the test well. The pilot well is kind of an exploratory borehole into the rock to try and determine what's there, versus the test well is a larger diameter borehole that gets tested with pump testing. So we removed two of the test wells, and they're kind of the larger scope items. So that would explain kind of the larger drop in price relative to kind of the total number of boreholes proposed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments from council? Okay, I'll read the recommendation of the Council of the Township of Center Wellington, award request for tender number 11-22 regarding the new well exploration drilling program to Aardvark Drilling Inc. in the amount of $1,903,676, excluding HST. Mover for that, please. Councillor McCray, seconded by Councillor McElwain. All in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to 8.11, debenture refinancing, and I'll turn it back over to our Managing Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer, Adam McNabb.
Thank you, Your Worship. This report seeks council endorsement to engage with the county and other related parties to secure the required debenture refinancing to satisfy renewal of the remaining debenture balance for the 2012 construction works of the Elora Wastewater Treatment Facility, and to endorse the passage of the related application bylaw. This debenture was initially issued in 2012 with a total sum of $8.8 million, and was a 25-year debenture with the initial 10 years issued as a non-callable installment loan with options to satisfy the remaining $6 million payable as either a bullet payment or eligible for refinancing in its final year. As 2022 represents the final year of the initial term, township staff are recommending the refinancing the residual $6 million for a period not to exceed 10 years. Current market represents a receptive market for shorter term borrowings. However, long-term horizon for debenture financing has been described as toxic and unsaleable. Hence the recommendation to refinance early and for a truncated timeline. Township staff have sufficient debt capacity to carry the refinancing for the proposed truncated timeline, and the renewal rates approximate current borrowing terms, with the original debt carrying an effective interest rate of 1.368%, and the renewal terms quoted at an effective interest rate of 3.264%. This refinancing would see a debt repayment term 5 years earlier than originally anticipated. And thank you for your consideration. Happy to field any questions that council may have on this item.
Thanks, Adam. Questions, comments from council? Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Adam, for that report. Two questions, Adam, if I could. The first one is, you mentioned a bullet payment. That implies that we could, if we chose to, pay this out in full, the $6 million, and not have to refi. Am I correct by the term bullet payment?
Through you, Mayor Linton. Yes, Councillor Foster, that's exactly correct.
And secondly, Adam, just going by your chart, it seems to me that, and I'm rounding out a little bit here, Adam, but approximately 600,000 per year over 10 years. You've got 10 different debentures with maturities ranging from 1 to 9 years to make the total of the 6 million. And that's the reason for the slightly upward scale in interest rates from 1.6 up to 3 and 3.3, I think you said, with a blended rate of 3.2. Am I correct in that manner? 10 different debentures with varying maturities.
Got it.
Again, through you, Mayor Linton, a single debenture, but just a serial amortizer would effectively require us to make 10 individual payments throughout the course of the remaining timeline. Yes.
Councillor Foster, following.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that we not do this, and that we pay out the 6 million using a combination of the $1.1 million from item 812, which is the operating surplus from 2021. Also, we could potentially use the $4.5 million from item 86, the bridge that we're not using, and pay this out. And that way we will own our sewage plant free and clear. I'd like to make such a motion that we pay this out and not finance it any further.
Okay, is everybody clear on the motion that Councillor Foster made? Any questions? Can I get a seconder for that motion? Okay, so that dies. We'll return to the main motion. Any other comments, questions from council? Okay, I'm going to read the motion first. That the Council of the Township of Center Whiteton received Treasurer's report dated April 25th, 2022 regarding the 2012 debenture refinancing, and that Council directs staff to engage with the county and other related parties to secure the required debenture financing to satisfy the renewal of the remaining debenture balance as detailed herein, and that Council endorses the passage of the related application bylaw. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Dunsmore, second by Councillor McCray. Any last comments, questions about this? Councillor Foster?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Low interest rates are nice, but they themselves are not a reason to refinance or borrow. We've built a plant here that's far larger than what our needs are. We've been financing it for 10 years now, and we have, as I stated earlier, we probably have the means to discharge this debenture and not even finance it. So I'm a little disappointed that we're not willing to even consider that. I'm not in favor of doing this. A strong financial position comes from building equity, and as long as there's debt charged against an asset, we're not doing that. So I'm not in favor of this. We have the means to pay it out, and I wish we would do so.
All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Moving on to 8.12, operating results from December 31st, 2021. And we have a report from Manager of Finance and Deputy Treasurer, Mark Bradey. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Mayor Linton, and through you. I'm pleased to provide the operating results for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2021. The report's fairly straightforward, laid out the same way it has been in previous quarters and year ends. You'll find attachment A is a summarization of the quantitative analysis for the various departments, and the qualitative analysis follows in attachment B. Bottom line is the operating fund surplus for 2021 is $1,085,442. That represents a 3.82% variance from the total tax support operating budget for 2021. And the surplus is largely due to unfilled positions in 3 departments: Human Resources, Fire Department, and Financial Services, supplementary taxation revenue, software maintenance and support costs, interest and penalties revenue on outstanding taxes receivable, and the winter control budget also was lower than anticipated. So staff is basically recommending that the 2021 year-end tax support operating fund surplus of $1,085,442 be transferred to the general capital reserve to support current and future capital projects. And this treatment of the surplus would be consistent with the majority of past years.
Thanks, Mark. Questions, comments from council? Councillor Dunsmore?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Linton. Mark, thank you for the report. This particular surplus, we spoke at length last week about the ECC project being scaled back, and we approved a new scope of work. If we put this in the reserve fund, once we understand how far, what the actual cost of the ECC development is, are we able to access that money as a council and move that back towards the ECC project?
Mark?
Adam, you can add in if you like as well, but yes, essentially we've done this in the past where we've put the money in the general capital reserve, and it'll sit there, and then staff or council can make reports and request that funding be used for a project in year, And if it isn't used in year, what will happen is it'll be funds available for use in the 2023 capital budget.
Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Mayor. Mark, I recall the number 12 million as kind of like a grand total of our various reserves. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if we put this money into the general capital reserve, what will be the total of that reserve, number one? Number two, what would be the total of all of our reserves? And finally, Mark, what is the rate of return we accrue on cash on reserves like this when they're set aside?
Mark?
Through you, Marilyn, I'll answer the last question first, because I need to pull up a schedule out of the budget here to give you the reserve balances. So you have to bear with me on that. But currently we're able, with our reserve funds are the only reserves that actually get, and development charges that get invested, and we earn interest on them. We just renewed our GICs recently for certain components of reserve funds, DCs being one of them, at 2.9% for 1 year. Bank accounts are typically, for balances, are sitting in savings accounts are prime minus 1.8-ish, depends on which bank it's with. Just give me a second here. Sorry, I've got to go through a bunch of directories here. Okay, general capital reserve balance at January 1, 2022. Okay, so that's before any transfers and so forth. So this really is your year-end balance at the end of last year. Is about 2.4 million. Okay, now there's a number of things that happen basically on about January 2nd. We transfer all the funding for the 2022 capital budget, right? Gets transferred to capital projects. And so that's projected to be in the ballpark of almost 2.1 million. And the projected transfers in, which are amounts of the operating budget, were just over $1 million. So the anticipated balance at the end of 2022, and I'm just getting this out of the reserve schedules that's in the budget book, it's about 1.6 million. And then you can add to that the 1,085,000. So you're projected to be
2.5.
$2,678,342. So about $2.7 million. That includes this surplus amount.
And the total reserve?
That's the general capital reserve. Okay.
The total?
For the general capital reserve at the end, projected to be at the
for
end
all
of
reserves.
For all reserves. For all reserves. Again, I'm just getting this out of the budget book. That's the number. It's a number of things get added up. So the total tax supported reserve and reserve funds. This excludes the $1 million, so add $1 million to it. This is projected at the end of 2022 is about 16.3 million. That's tax supported. User pay is about 18 million.
Okay, so just to clarify then, make sure our numbers are right. So it's just under 2.7 million in the general capital reserve. And then if you add all the reserves together, you have about 2.4 million. About 24 million. 16.3 plus 18, right?
That'd be 34.
34 million.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Foster, following?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So if I'm hearing correctly, we have 16 million on reserve and the tax supported 18 million in the user fee supported, a total of about 34 million. My question then is for Dan Wilson. Dan, as a policy matter, what I'm seeing here is we've just approved the borrowing of refinancing of 6 million in debentures at about 3.3, and about a large portion of this 34 million is earning perhaps zero in savings accounts, perhaps as high as 2.5 in a 1-year GIC. Can you help me understand, Dan, why wouldn't we pay out that debenture amount? We have the reserves to do it. Help me understand why we would not consider paying out that 6 million. We have the money to do it, and we could save interest in each year of 10 years going forward. Going from memory, I think it's $600,000 of interest saved if we hadn't passed the previous item. We have the reserves to do it.
Okay, so just as far as keeping to our agenda, the 6 million was already talked about in our last item, so we're not gonna focus on that unless it's part of Dan's response to the item that's on our agenda right now in terms of 8.12. So Dan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. Through you. Thanks for your question, Councillor Foster. When we talked about the 2022 budget, one of the pre-budget meetings actually in mid 2021, we did look at a reserve fund policy that was approved by council that outlined the numerous uses and restrictions on various reserves and reserve funds across the township. So while we do have specific amounts of funds within our reserves that are both tax supported and environmental supported, there are specific uses required for each of those reserves. And that's outlined in our reserve fund policy. And when it comes to the 6 million, just quickly, it is debt that is growth related, funded through development charges. So we are borrowing, we don't want to mix tax supported funds, which would be the $1 million surplus, with water wastewater rate base funds, which are funded through water wastewater rates, versus purely growth related that are paid for by development charges. So the 6 million is DC related. DCs will pay for those debt payments over the next 10 years and allows us to move forward with our intended use of the reserves and reserve funds as per our policy.
Thanks, Dan. Anything else from council? Councillor McElwain?
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, just a quick question. Which other reserves or where exactly did the extra OSIF funding for 2022 end up? Where is it sitting and how is it being used?
Mark?
The extra OSIF, through you, Mayor Linton, the extra OSIF funding will be sitting in a specific reserve that's actually called the OSIF Reserve Fund. So it sits there and waiting to be allocated to various projects.
Yeah, Dan wants to add to that. Dan?
Thank you, Mayor Linton. Staff are working on an update to the asset management plan. Well, we're going to elaborate further on that additional OSIF funding, and that's coming in the next few months.
Mr. McElwain, follow on?
Oops. Thank you. It's not really a follow-on, it's a separate question. Under the heritage line item in the report, it talks about Parks and Rec getting paid, and I can't remember the wording exactly, for tasks that they did for heritage for rural properties in adding to the municipal register. Was that part of the reassignment during COVID? Is that why Parks and Rec people were doing that work? Just curious.
Mark?
Through you, Mayor Linton, yes, it is, Councillor McElwain. It's various staff were deployed due to shutdowns for related to COVID.
Okay. And one other clarification, please. There's a line item farther down, additional dedicated capital levy funds of 40,000 or 46,000. I can't read that exactly. Received, put in the dedicated capital levy, creating an unfavorable variance. So I don't understand that line at all. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, that's a good question, Councillor McWayne. So it's kind of related because I think you're picking up on it under the other revenue and expense area. And if you look under the taxation and PIL revenue, there's a very similar comment where it's positive. It's just because what happens is we earned extra dedicated capital levy money due to supplementary taxation. So that money comes in to the operating fund, and then we transfer it out to the dedicated capital levy reserves. The impact on operations is really nothing. It's just because it's sitting, the dedicated capital levy money that's received is sitting under the taxation and PIL revenue area, which shows as a favorable variance there. But the transfers out of operations are actually seen as kind of a negative or an expenditure. So it shows as a negative variance under the other revenue and expense area. If the two accounts were actually in the same categories, there would be no impact. Does that answer your question?
So basically, this is just the cumulative amount each year that's going to add on to the dedicated capital levy, total capital levy amount, then basically is what you're saying.
It's supplementary taxation. That's the result of it. So it's kind of like some in-year growth, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I'll read the recommendation of the Council of the Township of Center Whiteton to receive report COR 2022-22 being a report on 2021 operating results for the Township of Center Whiteton dated April 25th, 2022 for information, and that Council directs staff to transfer the 2021 year-end operating surplus in the amount of $1,085,442 to the General Capital Reserve. Can I have a move for that, please? Councillor McWayne, second by Councillor Dunsmore. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Thanks, Mark, for that report. Section 9, we have information items 2, capital project status from December 31st, 2021. And Mark is here to answer any questions related to that. We also have the Tender Award Committee report, January to March 22. And Sandy put that report together, and Adam McNabb is here for any questions on that report. Is there any questions or comments from council on either of those two? Councillor Foster?
Mayor, I have a comment that I want to make on a back item on our committee of the whole. I'm wondering if I can make it now or on the tracking list. I would have liked to have raised it, but you never called for discussion, so I couldn't.
Okay, we don't have a tracking sheet on council. Those are on committee of the whole. So this would be the only opportunity to go on an item that we didn't talk about. Is it a question or comment, Councillor Foster?
It's a kind of a comment and a request, Mayor. Maybe if you permit me, I'll make it and then we can try to deal with it. It refers to when we close the 4 streets for the weekends in downtown Elora. I just had one kind of concern, and I'm hoping I think we can address it. And that is when those streets are closed, I'm just a little bit concerned about fire response time. And so I'm wondering if we could add on or give consideration to having the stoplight at David Street and County Road 7, as we did for the construction, in order to ensure that firefighters can respond to a call, should there be one, when the main street is closed. I would have liked to have raised it when we were dealing with item 6.1, Mayor, but there was no discussion called, so I couldn't. So I'm just wondering, is that something we can consider, perhaps, Dan?
Yeah, I think what we're going to do with this one, because it has been passed already. So I think staff can be directed through Dan. We don't have a fire chief here, so be directed through Dan and through Pat, that if there is an issue that fire has with emergency with those closures, that they present a report back to council with their concerns and suggestions for addressing that concern while the streets are closed. And I think that would be able to cover off that concern. So I think through that mechanism, we'll make sure that council is made aware of any concerns that fire has from an emergency perspective, and they'll bring any solutions back to this council. Is that amenable to council?
So we'll raise it with the chief and see if he's concerned and deal with it that way.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, moving on to our bylaws. We have a list that are in your report there, and I have a recommendation that bylaws 2022-29 through 2022-39 be read a first, second, and third time and passed signed by the mayor and clerk and the corporate seal fixed. Have a mover for that, please. Councillor Dunsmore, seconded by Councillor McCray. Any discussion with those bylaws? All in favor? And those are passed. Any notices of motion today? Okay. No motions where notice has been given. A confirmatory bylaw. I have a recommendation of bylaw 2022-40 to confirm the proceedings of council as meeting held April 25th, 2022 be introduced a first, second, and third time and passed in open council. Moved by Councillor Dunsmore, seconded by Councillor McCray. All in favor? And that's carried. Motion to adjourn. Councillor McElwain, seconded by Councillor Foster. All in favor? And we are adjourned. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll see all of you back, same channel on Wednesday.